All right, everybody, Merry Christmas. I am back with a brand new movie review. And today I am reviewing what is our family's favorite holiday movie, which is none other than the 2004 film directed by Robert Zemeckis, The Polar Express. Now, there's a lot of controversy associated with this movie, and I have some friends that absolutely hate this movie. They think it's creepy, and a lot of people think it's creepy. We do not. This is one of those movies where you just have to let loose, go in and enjoy it for what it is, and there's a lot to enjoy in this movie. And first of all, I want to talk about my favorite aspect of the film, and then we're going to talk about some of the voice cast, and there's one aspect that I really wish was better in the film, and then I'll give you my final score here at the end. But what's interesting about this movie is that if you take any frame in this film and you pause it, it looks like a Rockwell painting. This is a Rockwell painting brought to life. And it's got some great shots in it. I watched it in my theater room, and you guys, I'll leave some shots here in the video of what, this looks like. I have a 46-inch screen for my theater room, and you can see these photos here. These, I tend to take them every time we watch the Polar Express. And so this is where I actually watch movies, and it's like going to the movie theater. And this is one we definitely watch in the theater. Not every holiday movie we watch in the theater room, but this one is definitely one of those. There are a couple of scenes in here. There's like a roller coaster scene where they go through some canyons and stuff, and it's really cool to watch on a really large screen. So some people think that this is creepy. There aren't a whole lot of characters in this film, and the voice cast here, let's talk about the voice cast. Tom Hanks plays like 3 different characters in this film. He plays Santa Claus, he plays the conductor of the train, and then you also have him playing the homeless guy who's on the top of the train. Now, what's interesting here is you've got Eddie Deezen. He was actually in, what do you call that? Grease, the movie Grease. He is the know-it-all kid in this film. You've got Nona Gay, who plays the girl in the film that they end up befriending. And then you've got Billy, the lonely boy, who I swear they modeled this kid off of the kid from Malcolm in the Middle. And there are some other characters in here, but these are the biggest. And this is a movie where this kid is slowly losing faith in Santa Claus and does all this research at the beginning of the film. It takes place on Christmas Eve night, and he's just afraid Santa's not going to show up at their house. And lo and behold, in the middle of the night, the Polar Express shows up outside his house. You can hear the train coming in, and boy, it's pretty cool with the bass on when this scene and that train comes in. It's pretty cool. And this is where people start to have a problem with this film, is that this kid gets on this train that showed up out in the front and decides to go off with this man. And I can understand some of the criticisms in there, but you have to understand this is a holiday movie. You just got to let it go. Take it for what it is. This magical train shows up. Who wouldn't get on a magical train? I mean, come on. He's telling him it's going to take him to the North Pole. This is when they pick up a couple of the friends, and you find out that this movie is all about people learning who they are and their strengths coming out through this trip to the North Pole. Now, on the trip to the North Pole, the time stays exactly the same for the entire movie, which is pretty funny. There's many scenes where they talk about it being so much to midnight, and it never changes time. Every time they talk about it, it's the same time, even when they get to the North Pole. And what's really cool about the North Pole aspect of this is that there are some scenes where it's just these kids kind of wandering around the village or the town, and it's really cool to see how they visualized the town, and it's kind of deserted because everybody's in the town square getting ready for Santa to show up to go deliver the gifts. And as they're going through this, it's really cool to see some of the imagery. There's some pretty cool things where they go into where the gifts are wrapped. They go in where people are watching kids all over the world. I didn't do it. There's some pretty cool things in there. But there's one aspect of this that I didn't really care for in the North Pole, and this is my one real complaint with the film, and my wife agrees with me on this. The elves are kind of creepy. They sound like kind of 50-year-old smokers with these raspy voices, and these they just look very skinny and almost a little creepy. They're the ones that look creepy in the film. The elves could have done something a little bit different with the elves. Now, on that note, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of movie trivia, not movie trivia, but a little bit of movie knowledge here that people may not know. So this movie was directed by Robert Zemeckis. And did you guys know that Robert Zemeckis almost failed as a filmmaker? It's actually true. So back when the Back to the Future movies got released, and he was the director of the Back to the Future films, when Back to the Future 1 came out, Steven Spielberg told him, this is your last shot in Hollywood. If this movie doesn't do well for you, you're pretty much done. And that movie ended up being a massive hit, which started just a string of hits for Robert Zemeckis himself, and he's been doing movies ever since. And so that was kind of interesting that he was on his last leg when Back to the Future got released back in the early 80s, and he's been a really popular director ever since, which is pretty cool for people who didn't know that. All right, so at the end of this film, we find out that the main kid here, I always forget people's names. So the main kid here, he ends up finally realizing at the end of the film that there is a Santa Claus. He ends up seeing Santa Claus face to face, and during that scene, there's a part with a bell that falls off of a deer. He can't hear the bell, but everybody else can, and he takes a minute to really take in what this bell is and who Santa is, and he realizes that this is all real, that he believes. And as soon as he says he can believe, as he shakes that bell, he can hear it. And there's a really cool moment at the end when they drop everybody back off at home, to get ready for Christmas. They get dropped back off at home, safe and sound. The next morning, as they wake up, the father notices, and the father is also the father of the boy, is also played by Tom Hanks. He notices this bell that his son got for Christmas, and they were like, wonder who put that there. And they can't hear it, and they're like, oh, sorry that it's broken. But both him and his daughter, or not him and his daughter, him and his sister could hear the bell, but the parents could not. And you find out shortly after that as people start losing faith, that they can no longer hear that bell. And it's really cool. He talks about how all the people he went on to that North Pole trip, that they eventually lost the ability to hear the bell, but he never has. And it was really cool. And one thing I didn't notice until watching this movie just a couple of years ago is the fact that when the last shot is the bell on the table and then the camera pans out and you can actually see the train in the bell, which I didn't notice until like 2 years ago, which is pretty cool. I find this movie to be absolutely charming. I love the music. I love the zaniness of it. They do make a full film out of this. The imagery, especially out there in the desolate cold and going over some treacherous areas, it's really interesting how they do it, and you really get the sense that you're out there. It's a beautiful film to watch. It was really well directed, really well acted, and is actually a lot of fun. And so people who find it creepy, I feel sorry for those people, because this was meant just to be a fun, interesting film, and I hope people can get as much enjoyment out of it as we can. All right, guys, so there's our number one film of the holiday season. Next year, I'll be reviewing many more holiday films, but I wanted to get this and yesterday's review up for people to be able to watch during this holiday season. I do appreciate it. We will see you on the next review.